Greetings everyone, my name is Emmanuel and I would like to welcome you to our program today. We are continuing with our series on rebuilding a new Africa through decentralization. You see, God is not only interested in saving us, but He is also interested in prospering our nations. The last time we were together, we talked about the prosperity of Israel and we gave three major reasons why the nation of Israel is prospering. We said the nation is prospering because God made a promise to bless the nation of Israel. The second reason is that the nation of Israel, they are excelling in the area of agriculture and in the area of the high-tech sector. And the third reason that we advanced was that Israel is prospering because of their political system. The political system that they have encourages national prosperity. Now, our topic today is why are most African countries underdeveloped and poor? Why are most African countries underdeveloped and poor? And what can be done to remedy the situation? You see, when African countries gained their independence in the 1960s, most of them adopted a centralized system of government. Centralization means that power and resources are concentrated in the hands of the national government. In a centralized system, power and resources are in the hands of the ruling elites. Remember that in a democracy, power belongs to the people. A democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the people select their leaders to represent them in government. But most African countries say that they are democracies, but in reality, they are operating centralized system. They are operating a centralized system of government. And in a centralized system of government, power is in the hands of the ruling elites. Power is not in the hands of the people. In a democracy, power is in the hands of the people, and the people make most of the decisions through their elected officials. But in a centralized system of government, the ruling class, they make most of the decisions without even consulting the people, because elections are in many cases are not free and fair. And when elections are not free and fair, the people will not be able to hold their leaders accountable. So that is why in a centralized system of government, majority of the decisions are made by the ruling class without even consulting, the people. But in a true democracy, it is the people that make the majority of the decisions through their elected officials. So after independence, most of the African countries adopted a centralized system of government. And a centralized system of government encourages corruption. That is why most African countries are underdeveloped and poor, because the system of government that we have in many of our countries encourages corruption. There are some studies that say that about 140 to 150 billion dollars leaves Africa every year as a result of corruption. A centralized system of government also encourages conflict. And there are some studies that say that about 15 to 25 billion dollars leaves Africa every year as a result of conflict. Governments are trying to buy arms from foreign countries to kill their brothers and sisters. Just imagine the amount of money that leaves Africa as a result of corruption and as a result of conflicts. This huge sum of money could have been used to build roads, provide electricity, provide water, build hospitals, schools for the people. But because of the massive corruption that is taking place in many African countries, and because of the conflicts that are happening in many African countries. The continent is losing a lot of money that could have been used to provide basic necessities for the people. So a centralized system of government is not a good system for the African people. That is why the church must rise up and begin to speak against this form of government. The church is the voice of the voiceless. The church is the defender of the defenseless. The church is the only institution that can stand up to defend the poor and the weak, because in a centralized system, only the ruling class and those who have access to power and their cronies and their family members, they are the ones who are enjoying the benefits, the natural resources in our countries. The poor and the needy and the strangers and the oppressed are not enjoying anything. That is why the church must stand up to defend the poor and the needy. The church must criticize the centralized system of government, because it is not helping the majority of the people. Who wants to invest in a corrupt society? Who wants to invest in a system where there is no freedom of expression? That is why there was, in 2019, the ease of doing business rankings in 2019. Israel was ranked number 35. Cameroon, for example, was ranked 167. Nigeria was ranked 131. Liberia was ranked 172. Zimbabwe was ranked 140. Kenya was ranked number 56. South Africa 84. I think South Sudan was 184. Sudan was 171. Just imagine, who would like to do business in African countries where it is difficult to do business? That is why Israel is prospering, because it is easy to do business in Israel. Why? Because of their political system. You see, the political system that we have in Africa, it is difficult for investors to come and invest. And when investors don't come, or when investors don't invest in our countries in Africa, it will be difficult to create jobs. It will be difficult to employ the youths. That is why our system of government has to change. Africa must adopt a different form of government. The church must speak up against this, system that is not helping the majority of the people. Centralization encourages corruption. Centralization encourages conflict. Centralization also encourages inefficiency in the bureaucracy. Who wants to invest in a country where they take bribes? Who wants to invest in a country where the people are not hardworking? Centralization does not share power with the central government and the regional governments or state governments. All power is with the ruling elites. The ruling elites are the ones who make all the major decisions, and they are the ones who implement, the major policies. And that is not a good system for African nations, because we have so many tribes. Take, for example, in Cameroon, you have about 250 tribes. Because of a centralized system of government, it's the government that makes all the decisions. The government does not know the needs of the people in the different regions and different villages and towns and cities. So that is why African countries have to reject a centralized system of government in favor of a decentralized system of government. In a decentralized system of government, the government shares power between the national government or the central government and the regional government or the state government. Why? So that the leaders, at the level of the state, they know the needs of the people. So, because they understand the needs of the people, they are there with the people, they will be able to produce goods and services to meet the needs of the people. You see, in a centralized system of government, there is inefficiency. But in a decentralized system of government, there is the efficient provision of goods and services according to the needs of the people. So African countries should embrace true decentralization. You see, some of the countries in Africa have started, embracing decentralization, but the form of decentralization that they have now is not the truest form of decentralization. It's a fake, it's a false system of decentralization. We want a true system of decentralization that encourages, maximum transfer of power and resources to the people, maximum transfer of autonomy to the people. In a decentralized system of government, minority groups have autonomy to decide, their future, to make decisions concerning their future, concerning their destinies. But in a centralized system, it is a national government that makes decisions for everybody. So that's not a good system, especially in Africa, where you have so many different tribes. In Cameroon, about 250, in Nigeria, even more than that, and in other places. So a centralized system of government is not a good system for African countries. It is time for the church to begin to preach against this system of government that exploits the people. It is time for the church to begin to, talk about this system of government that does not encourage freedom of expression. You see, one of the reasons why there is limited freedom of expression in a centralized system of government is because those who are in government don't want the people to hold them accountable. In a centralized system of government, human rights are easily violated and the people don't have any recourse. Why? Because the system is rigged against them. The politicians who are in government, they have all the power and the resources, and they know what to do to frustrate the common man. So the common man does not have the freedom to petition the government. The common man does not have the freedom to have access to documents and information concerning the actions and inactions and the omissions of government officials. So those in power make it difficult for the ordinary man to know what is happening. And when you are a strong investigative journalist, those in power don't like it. That is why there's a lot of oppression and intimidation and the abuse of the rule of law in centralized system of government. If you question the government or you say something they don't like, they'll just come to your house without any due process, arrest you and lock you up. That is why a centralized system, the centralized system of government that is being practiced in Africa should be discouraged. Africa is poor and underdeveloped because of the centralized system of government that most of our countries adopted after independence. And centralization encourages corruption, and centralization encourages conflicts. Centralization encourages inefficiency. Centralization encourages tribalism. Centralization encourages marginalization. Centralization encourages the violation of human rights. Centralization does not grant power to the people to hold their elected officials accountable. The people do not have the freedom of speech. The people do not have the freedom to petition their government. The people do not have the freedom of assembly. The people do not have the freedom to peacefully protest against the injustice done to the majority of the people. That is why it is time for the church to rise up. The church is the voice of the voiceless. The church is the defender of the defenseless. The church is the pillar and ground of truth in our nations. The church is the conscience of our nations. The church must stand up and speak against this centralized system of government that is exploiting the people of Africa. It is time for African governments and the Africans to begin to demand for a change of a political system that is being practiced in our countries right now, and they should demand for true decentralization. Decentralization mitigates conflicts. Decentralization mitigates corruption. Decentralization encourages efficiency. Decentralization grants autonomy to minority groups. Decentralization talks about the inclusion of everyone in the government. The reason why most African countries are underdeveloped and poor is because most African leaders adopted a centralized system of government after independence. What can be done to address this situation? African governments should shift from a centralized system of government to a decentralized system of government which encourages national development and prosperity for all citizens. Thank you so much for watching this video. We are going to continue next time. Until then, bye-bye.